mean, that you can start dipping into your emergency fund, and are you set up properly to be able to handle, not being employed, not being able to go back to work? Because if we talk about one thing is about, trying to be social distance, but then trying to get back integrated with each other to be able to go back to work. We don't know when that's going to happen, you know what I mean? And how that's going to affect us. So how do you try and make money? How you try and survive and grow and adjust now?
Right. And it's changed for so many people. And again, when you think about kind of this whole theme around financial literacy and being equipped and involved, it's crazy in our country that as kids growing up, our parents constantly hit on us, stay in school, get good grades, go to college, get that college education so that you can come out and do what? Get a job, make more money, and have the capability to take care of your family in a different way. But, that fundamental thing that consistently is lacking is how do you go about being able to do that? I know growing up as a kid, my parents would, they took me down to the bank. You got the savings account, you got those little savings bonds every now and then. But my parents and family weren't educated about the stock market,
Yeah.
about investing and things of that nature. It was a foreign language, literally, for me graduating through college until I got out of it.
Yeah.
And so that's why, and talk about your background and perspective on it. That's why we want to really spend some time around this whole theme around getting people up and equipped to understand what the hell's going on. You said the word emergency fund, a few minutes ago. My partner, Daphne Winston, she calls it your fund.
Yeah.
Because right now, everybody's got to have it. You've got to have that shit, whatever you want to call it, fund right now. And if you don't, what are you doing to get it in stock? What are you doing to build that thing up? Because this stuff, as you just indicated, is not going away. It's not going to change. And we're going to be in this mode for a period of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, man. Like, it's tough because I know it's a lot of people out there hurting, trying to figure out what's next. How do I pivot? My job is done. My job is furloughed. And it's, you talk about unemployment and 4 months of unemployment and being able to get unemployment, but that's not enough to sustain you. That's not enough to help you to be able to pay your bills and be able to move forward. So it's like, what do? You look at the stock market and you look at it's flying up because of the bailout or, whatever you want to call it. But if you don't have the education to know how to take advantage of being able to quickly flip something, being able to flip a stock or buy a stock, low and sell it high the next day when it hits top, then how do you survive? How do you get ahead? Because we all know, no matter what, in some pandemics, that people, your old fun, yeah, it's okay. You can get away with the potty mouth out here, Daphne. It's okay. we can use our adult words. But you think about like, how do you get ahead and having the wherewithal and the knowledge to be able to utilize, the tools that you have in your toolbox to be able to make money in the global pandemic. One thing we know that, the mortgages and funds and they're lending money down. And that's why right now, really the most important thing to have is damn credit, right? You got credit now, you can take advantage of some things and try and make your move. But if you haven't really taken advantage of your credit, what are you going to do? It's funny because I remember, last time we had a crisis or recession, it was 2008. And what came out of that was Amazon. I remember Amazon was just about buying books online. Look how they're pivoted. They're hiring 100,000 people. A lot of those people that's hiring may be some of our listeners or some of the people that's following us, because that's the business right now that's booming, and you may have to sustain by being a driver trying to own your own distribution through Amazon.
Yeah, they're booming. You're in a situation again right now, just to that point where this is not a bad situation for all businesses. There are some businesses that are having record weeks, record months, record quarters. The grocery stores are killing it. The drugstores are killing it. Not that I have been there, but the liquor stores are definitely having a field day right now. Okay, I have made a few Grey Goose runs over the course of these past couple of weeks, but it's real, right? And as it relates to, this environment that we're in, you're going to have certain industries that are going to do well and be challenged. But with that point being said, going back to that fund or however you want to call it, having those ducks in a row right now, people are off. So it's time to pull back, time to cut that spending back. It's really easy to get caught up. Okay, I can't go to Nordstrom's. I can't go to Neiman Marcus. I can jump on Amazon, and both of those joints still are working and operating online. So again, that's where it comes into that piece of being able to just, have those chickens in a row so that you can continue to harvest that nest egg and weather this storm, depending your financial situation and what you've got going from a work standpoint or money standpoint related to where you are right now and what's happening.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, one thing that you do whenever something like this happens and you don't know if you're going to have a job, you get furloughed, you start looking more closely at the money that you waste. I
Yep.
didn't realize just how much stuff I had seeping through the, through the sink. I'm looking at my cable bill like, hold up, hold up, what am I paying for? I don't even watch half this crap, man.
Right.
And I'm looking at the things like I got 9 cable boxes in my house, right? It's just crazy, right? Cable boxes. Every room get a cable box. Not understanding that you can get the Roku stick, and the Roku stick, when you do have guests, can just hop on the Wi-Fi and you can watch half the stuff that you watch on the other TVs, and really how much money you waste going out eating all the time. You know what I mean? So it's like all those type of things, man. You worry about, like, I started thinking like, man, this is how much money I would be saving a month if I wasn't wasting money on going out and buying, Ruth's Chris or Roots or steakhouses and stuff every day. And, and now I'm cooking more of the food that's been in the deep freezer than I've ever cooked in my whole collective life, man. And that's a
lot cheaper to eat at Bart Scott's than to go to Ruth Chris every night. So in that point, like, hey, you've had successful NFL career. You did amazing things with your money. You did really well transitioning out of the NFL, going directly on to, the #1 sports show that guys aspire to go into. And so, you're one of those guys that is a poster child for having done it right. I'd be interested to hear some of the things that you just hit on in terms of some of the changes you and your family are making right now as you're going through this time period. Because everybody looks at, okay, well, Bart's the superstar. He's made all this money. My lifestyle doesn't apply to his. You just rambled off things that I think a lot of people are thinking about and can do to break it down and keep it real in terms of their circumstances. So hit on that for a little bit.
Well, just being more vigilant, right? Like sometimes we have budgets, but we don't really look at our budgets every day because that it's that source of income coming in. And there was money that I had planned on having, so many events that got canceled that I was supposed to host, so that's money that I had plans for. Right? I had plans for that money. Now I got to say, okay, well, now that I don't have that money, where is that going to, hit? Where is I got to take that from? Or where do I make a sacrifice here and saying, hey, I'm not going to go out and splurge on this, get this. I think really what this pandemic has done is made us sit down and reassess really what's important, right? Because sometimes, when you're making money, you just spend on stuff just because you can. You go out and buy those shoes and you don't make it a special occasion, or we spoil our kids and we go out and we just frivolously spend money. Spending money going out, like, I'm in a different phase of my life. When I was in my early 30s, like 30, 31, I still was like, okay, let's go to the club, turn up, buy bottles, stuff like that. And just the money that you save, not going out and meeting with your boys and paying for everything, you know what I mean? It's like you start realizing, like, at the end of the year, how much more you're able to do with something and making plans to do something meaningful and impactful with what you're bringing in, not just frivolously. Because if you don't pay attention to it, if you're just swiping, you know what I mean? Then you look up at the end of the month, like, where did it all go? I mean, you talk about Amex, paying your Amex bill and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I made like a conscious decision, maybe like really like 2 years ago. Like, listen, man, I'm working for everybody. Like, how do I want to pivot and start owning my own stuff and trying to make your money make money? It's not being so much of a consumer and being more of an owner. And that's a scary thing to do, to step out there. And you look at right now who's suffering the most is small businesses. And some of these small businesses are not going to make it back. They're not going to be able to sustain. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a great idea. Doesn't mean that it wasn't the right thing to do. I mean, you talk about being able to be independent, being able to take care of yourself, being able to have other people make you money instead of going out and working all the time. And I made a decision a couple of years ago that I was kind of tired of being a worker. I wanted to be able to have a sustainable business, one that I maybe can can leave for my for my kids and things like that, and be able to let them be able to come in and run it and grow it to the next phase. And that's when I made the decision to try and open up a training facility. And it's crazy because right now, for me, it's worst case scenario because I had a period of time when I didn't have to pay rent. I had a year free of rent. And now you have to go in, and now landlords are panicking. So now you got to try and talk to them about, hey, do I still get that free period? Because that's the time when you want to build your business up and be able to grow your members and do your training facilities. But now, like I have to ask myself, coming back, how slow would it be? How fast would it be able to kind of pick it back up? So now that's why you make these decisions, talking about how do I pivot? Do I have virtual online classes? Do I have virtual online teachers? How are you going to have? And when you come back, are you going to be able to have less people within a class at the same time because you got to have space? You talk about, do I need to add the infrared type of filtration on the HVAC to secure that things are not in the air, that you got it, because now when kids come back, you got to be able to sell to them. You got to be able to sell to them that they're in a safe environment.
Right.
Nobody's going to want to come work out and not knowing they're safe, especially until it's a vaccine. So now you talk about, these next 18 months are going to be pivotal in what we're doing. It's going to be pivotal because now we're going to have to sustain living in this environment until we get a vaccine. It can be anywhere from 6 months, to 18 months. So how do you plan and grow in that? That's the question.
No, and you talk about this country, 67% of our businesses are small-owned businesses. And so it's not even just a conversation of, can I weather the storm because I'm closed down right now? But, to your point, you've got businesses that are overnight going to almost be extinct in some of these situations. And then, you think about the businesses that service those businesses and how much of that was their revenue and their flow and what that particular piece is going to look like. I was having a good conversation, yesterday with my attorney and, talking about his book of business and the people that he works with and just, kind of assessing what that's going to look like for those individuals that are getting through this process. So, fortunately, I think the government has come out. There are some good programs out there. I think people have to be smart about taking advantage of them, and not just from a business standpoint, individuals that are getting unemployment. And, when we think about keeping this thing real with everybody, to have your rent deferred, to have your mortgage deferred, you go back to that discussion we had a minute ago about putting money away. Well, now's not the time to say, oh, I just got 4 months pass on paying my rent or mortgage. I can jump on Amazon and go for it for a couple months. No, re-up that oh shit fund, put that money away, stack those dollars, because again, we don't know how long this thing's going to last and what's going to be around the corner for us as it relates to it. So again, it's things that we've just all got to be mindful of and reinventing ourselves and looking at our situations right now.
It's crazy. Crazy. I was just talking to my boy. He was like, hey, man, mortgages are low, man. You might want to buy some rental properties if you have credit because it's 0% interest. You know what I mean? It's like, and everybody has a different comfort level. But, you think about the businesses that we may lose, but look at the opportunities for you to replace those businesses. You think about restaurants. You think about shops. People are going to have to probably try. And you think about landlords. They may try and have to landlord might have to give you a favorable loan now because it's going to be hard for him to fill it up. So you may be able to go and negotiate some stuff, and when we get on the other side of it, be beneficial. But if you weren't set up before, you may not be able to take advantage of it. But people that are set up are going to be able to take advantage of it, man.
No, you're spot on. And then the other thing that happened is obviously the rates have dropped, loans have fallen through the bottom. Everybody's thinking, okay, now's a great time either to go get that mortgage locked in or refinance. But now the banks are having this onslaught. The banks are in a perfect storm situation right now. A couple reasons. You've got all this money now that the feds are putting out that's now being managed and run through the banks. So they're trying to process that as best as they can. But then just before that came out, you had, all-time low rates. So the amount of volume that was coming to the banks for people trying to get refinanced was through the roof. They couldn't keep up with it. A bunch of the banks just quickly bumped their rates just to slow the volume down until they had the capability in terms of being able to get this thing, for the ability to have it reset again.
Yeah.
So, it's a whole lot of stuff that's going on out here right now that, again, we just got to be, thinking about. You hit on the stock market earlier today, so, and again, this thing has impacted everybody.
Yeah.
You and I've had these conversations in the last couple of weeks. I accidentally opened up a statement from my investment firm, and I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
I was hoping that it was a bad dream. So, it's impacted everybody out there in the gamut, and this is one of those situations as well where, I've had calls from players, I've had calls from individuals. This is a period. If you haven't heard from your financial advisor by now, there is something wrong.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those periods where you need them to hold your hand and be honest with you. Keep it 100. Tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
People have lost, a lot of money.
Yeah.
The portfolios have gone down in value in most situations. And
in their 401ks, man, everybody was loving in this environment how great their 401k was, and overnight,
yeah. Well, I've got a 101k now. My thing's gone from being a 401k to a 101k. It's gone down in value so much. But again, now's the time to have that conversation to reevaluate where you are, what you're looking to do, and if your long-term goals and objectives haven't changed, then it's a time to be able to stick to that game plan with regards to what people are trying to get done on that front out there.
Well, I'm an athlete, so I always look through the athlete's premise, and I'm looking at some of these guys. They were able to get a new collective bargaining agreement, and they were able to get that done. But the reason why a lot of people feel like it was split, it wasn't as close as people. It was closer than people thought. I think it was like a couple 500 votes, or one way would have been a no. But a lot of those guys did that because they didn't want to go through a lockout. Well, now you have a pandemic lockout, and I just don't know how we're going to be able to get. I know we're still going ahead with the draft, but I just don't see, and it is those out there who believe that it may not be an NFL season. I mean, The NBA season is in jeopardy. The baseball season is in jeopardy. They're trying to go in a biodome and try and go in Arizona. College, if the first people that's going to take the hit may be college football. And how much money that generates. So just imagine how that affects the people that work the concessions, that park the cars, that does the security, that goes out and does the other things. You know what I mean? I even think about the assistant coaches, and how does that affect like the TV revenue, knowing that you can't have a game. And, the WWE stuff was cool, but it was really hard to watch. Now, I think right now all eyes are on Dana White now to see if we can have combat sports and furloughs. I know Ice Cube came out. He was talking about maybe quarantining a bunch of players and kind of having like a ultimate fight club or contender where they live in a house and they go out and they play. You know what I mean? That's where we're at, man.
Right.
That's where we're at in society. And if you don't adjust and pivot and evolve right now, you're gonna get left behind and get stuck. Leave yourself vulnerable.
Yeah, no, the great points there. And so, we transitioned, and we were going to talk about sports today and get into football with having you on here. So when you think about this year's draft, going through the process, I was watching a piece yesterday, with our own coach, John Harbaugh. And yes, this is coming to you live from Baltimore. This is Ravens country. So we're just going to keep it real on that front. But, Coach was talking about the process now. So when you think about how things have changed, the pro days, the interviews, thank goodness they got the combine in. Right. What does this mean, and how is this going to impact things as far as the draft is concerned with this all being done by Zoom and Skype?
Right. Well, you talk about the virtual, draft, and where all teams are going to have you're going to have general managers separate from head coaches. So one of Harbaugh's concerns is the fact that people are going to be able to get access to their board. We've all seen people and these little kids that are on Zoom doing their homework and doing their work. We've seen people hack them and things of that sort. So people are concerned about getting hacked and people seeing their draft board. So ultimately, we're thinking that it may affect the way that people move up and down the board. because now transactions. Now you think about transactions. If you want to trade and move up and move down, you got to go through get that communication. So that you can know, hey, I want to move up. But if somebody gets into somebody's draft board, able to tap into their camera, able to see who they want, then that may make them be more aggressive to move above them. I think about a team like Miami, right? A team like Miami that's in prime position. They're saying, you know what? In today's game, we need a quarterback. The first quarterback on the board is Burrow, but then the second one is Tua. Tua may fall right to us because we know that, the teams above, like, supposedly Washington is not in the market for a quarterback. They have Haskins, second year, going into a second year, so seemingly they seem okay. They traded for Allen. He's going to be the backup, maybe compete for the head job. Then you think about the Lions. The Lions have Stafford. Yeah, he's he's been in the league for 10, 12 years or 10, 11 years, something like that. But he's still only 32 years old. So in today's football, that's still young. He's still got 5, 8 years of prime time. 5, 8 years of prime time with him. Then you go down to the Giants, where they just took Danny Dimes last year. So, they're not going to take a quarterback. Then you get to Miami, and then you get to San Diego. Well, will San Diego want to make a move up to say, hey, Detroit, you can still get a Cuda, right? Or, you can still get a Cuda, but let us move up. Or, they have Tyrod Taylor, who everybody knows that's out there that's just saying, go Ravens. They have Tyrod Taylor. So you got Tyrod Taylor out there. So that's going to be available for them. So they can bring in a guy like Tua that may or may not be ready to play because of his health history. But what I would also wonder, like all these guys coming in, what type of insurances and lines of credits are they pulling out on themselves, right? This is a scary time because they're coming in, they're getting drafted, but if there's no season, then you don't get that money, right? Now, and I'll be see how guys are going to get signing bonuses. We haven't even had contracts really solidified yet because you couldn't do physicals.
Right.
So it's super crazy, bro.
And I guess Bart, if I'm
your boy Kaufman kicking in,
there he is. I see him.
Yeah,
whatever. Get that Pittsburgh thing down off of there. He was nowhere to be found this year. Hey, so if I'm a guy that's coming out right into the draft, should I be super concerned about how this whole technology thing and how this is going to go down may impact where I'm going to come out on the board, or is that not going to be an issue for those guys?
Well, the issue is for the guys that weren't able to have the pro days, they weren't able to maybe win over some of the coaching staff. Now, if you went to the Senior Bowls or you went to Senior Bowl or you went to like one of the All-Star games or you were able to go to the Combine, then you're able to kind of leave a lasting impression and move up the board and move down the board. But what happens is the guys that's really going to struggle is the guys that weren't able to go to the Combine, but was able and willing and able to put up great times, right? So they could put great times up in their pro days, but they never got those pro days, so they weren't able to make that impression to maybe move up. Because the first round is pretty much set. You may have some guys that sneak up into the first round or some guys that drop, but you weren't able to improve your stock, right? You weren't able to say, you know what, let me talk to them, let me get on the board, let me show them that they can give me a system, and then I can regurgitate it and be able to get on the board and articulate exactly what my role is and my understanding of conceptually what this defense is or what this offense is or what this concepts of these routes are. So you got guys that's going to slip in that regard. Also, it's going to hurt, some teams because now the trick becomes who can, when the draft is over, who can get to those undrafted free agents and try and make them priority.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like, trying to call people and stuff like that is really going to take place as steals, right? I was an undrafted free agent. James Harrison was an undrafted free agent who you have to make those decisions. But coming in, like now, as a guy that may or may not get drafted, do you take a credit line from your bank, or do you take a credit line, because you're going to.
But these guys don't have any credit yet, Bart.
Yeah, but a lot of times what they're trying to do, they're trying to leverage it over my draft spot, based on my contract. And,
right.
And what does that look like? Or do I take a loan? Because when you get there, you're going to have to figure out, not so much for the first and second round draft picks, because they'll be able to leverage, like, hey, I'm a first, second round draft pick, you'll get your money. But what about the fourth or fifth round draft picks that may not have that liquid cash? Like, where do you stay? What do you do? And like with the technology standpoint, a lot of these teams may have to start their offseason programs via Zoom. But the problem is you can't get to a gym.
Yep.
The gym may be like, it's the same thing that we have with these Olympic players, right? These Olympic players, because people think of Olympic players or Olympic athletes, I'm sorry. We take for granted that they work out of these tremendous facilities. No, they don't. They work out at colleges and high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And training facilities. So that's why, when you listen to some of the Olympians, they were happy that it was canceled because they thought it was maybe an unfair advantage for, like, maybe the athletes in Wuhan or Japan or Korea, because they have access to train when everybody here is locked down. Like, mm-hmm. you can't even go on a public track. So, like, this whole pandemic is going to affect the sports world tremendously. I mean, we're talking about coming back without fans. And really what I think about a sport like baseball, where the in-game product is much better than the television product. So, I mean, we're just getting to the beginning of this and how it affects people's finances and how it affects businesses, how it affects contractors, independent contractors, union workers. Like, so now, if we're not going back to work, where are everybody going to migrate to? I mean, I know that Amazon's winning, but who else is winning? Who else do you think that you can come to? I understand that, a lot of financial, professionals like yourself are able to work from home.
Right. But everybody can't. And it's, it's changing everybody, changing the game with a lot of things, to that point. To stay on the football piece for a second. So 2 questions and a little disconnected. Going back and putting number 57 on, going into M&T Bank Stadium, we're not going to talk about that New York facility. What do you think it would be like to play in an empty stadium as a football player when the league is back in session? What does that do to the game?
I mean,
it's America's sport.
I mean, you saw, you may not like wrestling, but you have to appreciate that they are great entertainers. Now, whether you outgrew wrestling, I had Mark Henry on my show, Hall of Famer, world's strongest man. He's a friend of mine. And they're accustomed to performing in front of nobody, right? Because we all see them on SmackDown, Raw, all those big wrestling, weekly telecasts. But a lot of them come up in territories where it may be 10, 20 people there, and they're just working on their craft.
Right.
Football players feed off the crowd, the momentum. Yep. So how do it'd be interesting to me to see how the NFL is going to create an environment. And not just the NFL. You hear LeBron and you hear them saying, hey, that if we're going to come back and it's going to be without fans, we much rather play the games, not in arenas, but play them at our practice facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an eerie sight when you look up and there's nobody there.
Right.
You talk about this game and, it's really based on emotion. So now you have to manufacture emotion. Now your teammates have to become your cheerleaders, right? They got to create that energy. It's almost like a inter squad scrimmage when nobody there. So what I do like about it is, like, you're going to hear people talking trash to each other because there ain't going to be no white noise to drown it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's going to be, you'll hear Action Jackson say, whoopsies, gotcha. You know what I'm saying? You're going to hear Earl Thomas, talking crap. But I think you may almost want to pipe in artificial sound, much like the Indianapolis Colts used to do when you went to the RCA Dome. They turned the speakers up over the crowd noise. just to make it harder for the opposing team to kind of communicate with each other. I mean, I think some other teams have been, guilty of that, but this may be the time where you kind of want that,
Right.
Because
Right.
listen, we are in uncharted territory.
Yeah. Well, we know you would have made out all that smack talking you talk out on the field. You would have thrived in this environment, brother. Shift gears. We hit on it super early before people tuned in, but the NBA season has been suspended, and so knock on wood, thank goodness the guys got word today that their next paycheck is going to be not suspended. Yeah, no, been on suspension.
Okay, you heard
It's
me.
been
You
on
had me nervous,
suspension.
man. You had me nervous, man.
No. Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
temporarily
you heard something? I just
suspended,
got off
not
the air.
terminated.
Oh, I said, I just got to get back on the air, man. I thought it was still a chance they might come back.
No, still suspended. But the big thing on these guys' minds has been their paychecks. Okay, am I going to continue to get my typical paycheck? Because these guys, are able to determine how they want to get paid. Some guys get paid 12 months a year. Other guys get a bunch of their money, lumped up in one particular piece.
Yeah.
And they're now realizing that really, really fine print in that contract is going to potentially provide the capability for all that money not to be delivered. So what advice do you have for guys like that are there? And what advice do you have for football players that are thinking, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to be good by the time our season starts. Keep it real with them.
Yeah, I mean, this would be perfect for my boy Tweezy. I see Tweezy just jumped on. I mean,
Twan Walker.
Yeah, I see how that is, man. That's gonna be interesting, man. Like, conversations also, depending on how much you got in, how many nuts you got stored, right? You think about some of these young guys, you got to prepare for the worst case scenario, because nobody can give you a real answer. Nobody can give you a real answer about what's going on and how this is going to go down. So you got to make sure that you save everything that you can. You got to trim the fat. If you're taking care of moms and pops, you got to say, look, moms and pops, I need you to hold it down. You need to sit up and understand what I'm going through. You need to go down to the bare minimums, man. You got to take care of yourself. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's real now, and it's you heard one of the players come out the other day that indicated that he thinks up to more than a third of the NBA, you've got guys that are having challenges right now and living paycheck to paycheck. So again, any other thoughts or perspectives that you have as it relates to those cats that are going through that piece as well?
I mean, hopefully these guys can recover, and this serves as a fair warning. You know what I mean? That you got to get your stuff together. You know what I mean? And really something eye-opening to people or the players that thought they were okay, and then you take a closer look, like, man, I got to get it together. The good thing about this is, not the good thing, but what gives me hope is the fact that you look at the season, you look at the pandemic. We know, or we believe, hopefully, that this is something. It's not like the crash, right, where banks were in bad shape. At least we know the banks are in good shape, and that
right.
that the banks are going to be funded, so guys can be able, if you are that player, maybe you can go out and get a loan, but take that loan and use that loan as if your life depended on it, knowing that you may be able to recover that way, and let that serve as a teacher to yourself, never to be put in this situation again.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to learn a lot of lessons really fast about, never preparing for the dark day. And for everybody to say, oh, this is a once in a lifetime thing. Well, 2008 happened too. 2008 happened. So now you got to prepare yourself for the next one. Right. So like now, you should be, I think this is an eye opener for everybody.
Everybody.
For damn sports, this is for everybody, man.
Yep.
Like,
everybody. The players that are going through it. And again, we talked about keeping things real. People assume that players make all this money, people in entertainment make all this money, and they don't have the day-to-day challenges that everybody else has. They do. We've got a lot of people out here that are on that paycheck to paycheck. So
I can't wait tomorrow, man. I mean,
yeah.
You look at this movie game, like,
yep.
Movies maybe less than, how many times now are we going to see where some of our favorite actors are doing movies strictly on Netflix, strictly on Apple TV? I mean, because as far as putting stuff in the movie theaters, that may be over with for a long time. And to me, that was an industry that was on life support too. It's weird, man, because like, you know, a lot of times you can't connect the dots going forward. You got to look backwards to connect the dots. And I remember, you know, it's like people were saying like, why would Will Smith do a movie on Netflix exclusively? He did. Remember, he was one of the first ones I remember that did it. It was It's called Bright.
Yep.
Right. He was one of the first ones to do it, but now that may be the norm. Everybody's getting put on. You know, they're not going with these. It's not this big industry anymore. You know, it's not big industry anymore. It's not like this big, like, you know, distribution and big labels. You know, and you see that in the financial world. A lot of people going more to mom and pop shops and stuff like that. You know, so that they can take advantage and have more intimate relationships. But man, like now you're looking at how this going to affect the music industry. You know, and like a lot of things that are discovered here and a lot of pivots that people are going to make may not come back. I mean, you take so much stuff for granted, man. Like the in-fan experience. Like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do an autograph signing again. You know what I mean? Do I want to pre-sign? Do I want to pre-sign everything? You know what I'm saying? Do I want to pre-sign everything and say, I'm sorry, here's your personalized joint? I mean, we think about putting masks on, man. Like,
do you think we'll be sitting back in the stands in September, you know, packed in the M&T Stadium, 70,000 fans watching football the way we used to?
I would love to like say yes, but I think maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, because we have to, you know, I heard Stephon Marbury talk about how surprised he was at how America handled this pandemic. And for people that don't know, Stephon Marbury, everybody knows he was a great basketball player, but he lives in China now. I mean, he went out there and found a secondary career. He has businesses out there. He's coaching out there. He won 3 championships out there. And, you know, anybody that saw the special on him, he's happy there. But they have something that we don't have and that I don't think we want to have. They have more of a dictatorship, right? You know, they have one level of government. So, like, out there, he was saying that you can't go anywhere without getting your temperature checked, right? You have to submit your temperature. Like, how many Americans are going to give up their civil liberties to go into an arena? That's the problem.
It's different.
So unless everybody's willing to come in and have their temperature checked, you know, maybe put a mask on until they get into their seats, I don't know how we're going to fill 80,000 people in a stadium that we're herding them together for something that's airborne.
Right.
I'm really concerned about that. The only thing that's great that, you know, athletes have an obligation, man. This is what athletes have to realize, that it may not be perfect for them, but we have an obligation as athletes. We put on a pedestal in this country. We have an obligation to give the people what they want. And that's real sports, ultimate reality TV. And it's not going to be perfect, but you have to be a professional. This is time now where you have to be a professional. So when you get out there and you heard LeBron, he had to retract what he said when he was talking about, like, if he can't play it, he won't play without fans, before he knew how bad this pandemic was, before he knew how bad this virus was. But things are not going to be the same, and I don't think things are going to get back to normal for sports until we get a vaccine. Now, you know, I think my former boss, Johnson & Johnson, got one of those contracts. I think I saw that $144 million to be one of the people for the and Woody's in the pandemic. I mean, not in the pandemic. Woody's in the administration. So I mean, I can try to put some pressure on him. You know what I'm saying? For all the people out there that's listening, you know what I mean? I can try and go over there, try and get in touch with Woody, man. Tell him, ask him how it's coming along, man, as far as being able to get some type of vaccine. But until we get a vaccine, man, I just don't know, man.
Yeah, no, it's real. So, you know, we're hitting on this whole thing around get lit, and, you know, why is this whole financial literacy thing important to you? Why has this been a big passion of yours? You know, you and I had an opportunity to connect about 7 years ago. You know, we connected at former place I used to work at, and obviously you've come in, you've joined, you know, you were involved in ownership and actively involved in this company. Why is this such a big deal for you regarding what we're doing at Edyoucore and getting this word out to change the game?
I mean, because I believe in the mission statement, right? The mission statement is, changing the narrative. And not just for athletes, but for everybody. This just is the platform, and this is my vehicle that I use was being a professional athlete. But we all want the same things in life, man. We just want to come, work hard, achieve our dreams, take care of our family, hope that we can have kids, raise our family, let them do better than what we did. And unfortunately, too often in our society, or especially in our neighborhoods, people that look like us, they don't have the education and don't have the wherewithal. And we have, tremendous opportunities through our talents to be able to take advantage. And, we should start taking more advantage of that and being able to retain more of what we make, right? I always say that the person's greatest moments or finest memories in their life shouldn't be the time they spent in the uniform, right? Because it's such a small part of our life, right? You want the whole thing to be nice and profitable and beautiful and be able to enjoy it all. So that's just, a passion of mine, just continue to do my part and just be able to reach out to people, talk to people, and hope that, I can just make them not have to go through some of the things that I did, some of the mistakes that I've made. And also when you talk about it, you learn about it, right?
Yeah. And
sometimes, all people don't take advantage of the people around them, right? To be able to be a sponge. And a lot of times that's because we lack humility. Because when you're trying to be successful, a lot of times when you're trying to be successful, it takes a type of arrogance. It takes a type of narcissistic type of confidence in yourself that I'm the best. I can't be beat. I can't be touched. But when it comes to your finances, you have to have humility, because you have to know that you don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. Like, it's just like if a non-athlete came into my arena and he never played the sport, he wouldn't have a chance. But, athletes, because they're good at things, or some successful people, because they're successful at one thing, doesn't mean that when they step into another arena, which is finance, or that they have the expertise. Like, you don't say, well, you know what, I'm smart, I'm gonna go ahead and self-diagnose myself. No, you go to a doctor. Right. And the smart people that go to doctors don't accept what the doctor tells you. You investigate. And, nobody goes to get surgery, whether it's cosmetic or regular, without getting all the facts and all the information. You become an expert at it, right? You start figuring out what people are talking about. Like, no, okay, well, what happens if this happens, doctor? Okay, what happens if this happens? Well, we don't do that and go through it with a fine-tooth comb, when it comes to our finance. So, like, I wanted to be able to say, you know what? Get educated. And then you make your own decision. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we only know one way. And one thing about being an athlete is it has a definitely expiration date. And we never know when that expiration date is coming. So like when you approached me, 7 years ago, I was glad to do it. You know what I mean? I'm continuing to do it, because I enjoy, it's almost like living through people all over again. And saying, damn it, man, I wish I could go back there, man. I would have did this, I would have did that. You know what I'm saying? I look at like, when I got here in 2008, it was at the beginning of, it was in the heart of the recession. And I got a big ass check, and man, I wish that I would have took advantage of buying real estate. I was looking at all these people coming from Italy, Europe. They damn near bought up the entire side of Michigan, of Detroit, my hometown. They saw it from Italy. I didn't see it from right here, smack dead in my neighborhoods.
So you and I have talked about, and you shared with a lot of the players, the student athletes, et cetera, your former players, about some of the mistakes that you made back in the day that are practical for everybody. You mind sharing a couple of those that people can relate to that are tuned in right now?
Well, I see my boy K just got on, man, but jacked up my credit for swimsuit. Didn't know.
Macy's.
Yeah, didn't pay attention. So much of my,
tell them the story.
So much. Well, the better one is me paying my sister's rent for 10 years, and not leaving them in a better place. Not leaving them in a better place when I stopped paying it than before I paid it. And it's just one of those things where as athletes we feel obligated to try and bring everybody else up with us. But one thing that I realized, if you leave yourself vulnerable and everybody depends on you, then who's going to help you? So
Right.
always trying to grow and always trying to evolve, man. And just being able to learn from your mistakes. I mean, the dumbest thing I did, man, I owned a damn ABA basketball team. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
What's the movie with Will Ferrell? Semi pro, man, playing. The team was playing in gyms that was smaller than the average high school team. High school team had more people, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be Mark Cuban, and I'm sitting up here, not paying attention. I got accountant of mines on at the time was the guy who wrote me into it, understanding that those are no-nos.
Right.
And trying to figure things out, man. So learn from other people's stories, man. I mean, if you want to learn about a story or a tragic story, just Google it. You'll find out a lot about it. Oh, so somebody just hit us with the Jackie Moon shot.
That's it.
Jackie Moon. I was the real life Jackie Moon. No, I didn't play, but I mean, I was a real. He was a player coach.
Right. So, before we wrap up, just a couple quick things, and Bart's going to hit us with a couple quick things before we leave out. We're trying to start this movement, so we'd encourage everybody to visit us at Edyoucore.com to learn more about our Get Lit focus during the month of April for Financial Literacy Month. And this is going to be something that we're going to continue to have an opportunity to move on. Follow us at our hashtag #GetLitEdyoucore. Engage with us. Let us know what you're thinking. Ask questions, give feedback on a variety of different areas. And as Bart indicated, help us to grow this movement. I also want to take a moment and recognize Keith Clinkscales and the Shadow League. They have been great partners for us from a content standpoint. We've got a great relationship. They help to promote the event for us today. Go check them out at theshadowleague.com, and there'll be more information to follow as it relates to that. And as we said, this is not a one-time deal. Our whole focus this month is to be able to drop some practical knowledge, talking to some folks in sports and entertainment about their stories, what they're going through, and making these conversations relevant and real. Bart will be hosting, and as we indicated, next week we're going to be joined by the one and only Tamara Tooney. You've seen her on Law and Order. You've seen her in Flight, The Devil in the Blue Dress. She's an award-winning actress. She just dropped her first CD this past summer. And she's going to talk about what things are like as an actor right now who can't produce movies, who can't go out and do shows. She had Law and Order lined up last week. She's got a play she's been involved with, and it's impacting that flow in a variety of different ways. So she's going to give that perspective and just talk about what's happening there and how individuals in that arena are dealing with things. The week after that, we're going to have on Ward Manuel, the athletic director from the University of Michigan, to talk about how this thing has impacted the world of collegiate sports from a monetary standpoint and what things are going to look like as we move forward, hopefully getting football back in place. And then we've got a couple of other really cool guests that'll follow over the course of the next couple of weeks. So, Bart, I'm going to leave things with you to give us some final words of wisdom, and hopefully we can get a little bit of a get weight thrown in there before this thing is all said and done, before the day's up.
Oh, no, man, listen. I just want people to understand and really appreciate really what's going on now and really look at the glasses half full. One of the things that I've really been embracing is the opportunity to spend time with my kids, the opportunity to spend that quality time that we don't get. I hope everybody out there, their family's doing well, and if not, we're praying for you, but take this time as an opportunity to grow, right? You're either going to come out of this thing worse or better, right? Let's make sure that we all strive to come out better. I mean, this is a tough situation, nothing that anybody can anticipate or have anticipated, not being able to be social with each other. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to engage with people. I mean, listen, Drew might be the only live person that I've talked to or a face that I've seen outside of my family in the last 4 weeks.